بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We are continuing with our classes on التعبير القرآني, where we go through the book of Dr. Fadil Saleh Samir Ra'i, التعبير القرآني, and we're discussing the gems in it, as well as understanding, just refreshing on grammar and a little bit of sarf here and there, but mostly grammar, so we can understand. We are revising and also extracting gems as we go along. Okay. Now, last time or last week, we had talked about, just he was discussing, if you take a particular style of an expression in the Quran, for example, tawkid, that's the example he gave. And if you just to look at it, what would you find? You would find that it is very appropriate, very suitable to the context that it is found in. Okay, despite the fact that tawkid is all over the Quran, you find tawkid almost in every in fact in all surahs there is some kind of tawkid probably that is being expressed. So he's saying, despite the fact that it is everywhere, and despite the fact that there are different forms of tawkid, it is suitable in that particular context. So that's where we were. Um, And we had just done this paragraph, which was a bit of a challenge. So ويحذف ويؤكد في تعبيرات أخرى تبلغ المئات. All right. And he ويحذف, and he omits or hides. ويؤكد, and he emphasizes in تعبيرات أخرى, in other expressions that reach hundreds. وهو يراعي في كل ذلك الدقة في التعبير ووضع كل لفظ في مكانه حسب ما يقتضيه السياق، بحيث لا يصح وضع تعبير مؤكد في مكان غير مؤكد ولا ما أكد بأكثر من مؤكد في موطن أكد بمؤكد واحد. So the idea that narrows down what he is introducing in this passage, because remember the way he speaks is he introduces something, an idea, and then he goes on to give examples on that idea. So now he is introducing the idea that you cannot find, like every tawkid is specific to the context. That's number one. Number two, you cannot emphasize a context that does not need emphasis. And you cannot omit emphasis from a context that requires emphasis. Or rather, you cannot even emphasize a place with more than one emphasizer that doesn't require it. And you cannot remove an emphasizer from a place that requires it. So the context is the tawkid rather informs or is in conformity with the context, right? So that's the idea that he's introducing. All right. Are we all good so far? Because now he's gonna give some examples to that. Any
Yes,
questions?
I just have one question, and it's about like غيري. Why like it's majur? Why it's with a kasra?
بغير
The third
غيري,
line, her line.
because it's a صفة.
Of
غير
makan.
مؤكد,
All right.
تعبير مؤكد is صفة number one, and then مكان غير مؤكد, is the صفة to مكان, and this
All
whole
right.
thing can also be looked at as a صفة to تعبير.
So wad'u tabirin is mudaf ilayh. It's going to be
Yes.
wad'u. It's rafa, so it
Yeah.
means it's the outside file.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Any other questions or clarifications? All right. So let's go to the examples that he's giving. Who's participating today? Let's see. No one is participating today. Okay. I'll participate, no problem. Okay, Saima. And Fauzia. Okay, great. Alhamdulillah. So let's see. Maybe we can finish the page. Or not. We'll see. See how far we go. So maybe Saima, you can read up to this part, and then Fawzia can read up to this part. And if you have time, we'll see what else to do. Okay.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وكذا الأمر في غير إن فهو يقول مثلا وإلا تغفر لي وترحمني أكن من الخاسرين سورة هود بلا توقيد ويقول مرة أخرى وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين سورة أعراف بالتوقيد الجواب.
Beautiful. So there's not really much going on there. Mostly it's the Quran. But let's try and figure it out. So وكذا الأمر في غير إن فهو يقول مثلا وإلا تغفر لي وترحمني أكن من الخاسرين في سورة هود بلا توكيد. Okay. ويقول مرة أخرى وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين بتوكيد واحد بتوكيد الجواب. Sorry. بتوكيد الجواب. So what is he saying? Let's understand first of all what he's saying. He's saying, so he's comparing these two ayat. One ayah is in Surah Hud, another one is in Surah A'raf. You can actually see that they're very similar. Okay, so وَإِلَّا تَغْفِرْ لِي وَتَرْحَمْنِي أَكُنْ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. There's no emphasizer, there's no inna, there's no لام التوكيد, there's no نون الثقيلة أو نون الخفيفة. There's no any kind of توكيد. Even توكيد اللفظي is not there. No, or معنى, no kind of توكيد. Okay. But on the second one, وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَا نَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. So there's a lam here that is it's adding emphasis, and he says بتوكيد الجواب. So this lam is emphasizing the jawab of shart, because in, we know it's adatu shart, and then of course this lam تغفر لنا وترحمنا, this is our shart part, the condition part, and then we see a lam which comes with the jawab, with indicating where the jawab starts. So this jawab is being emphasized, that if you do not forgive us and you do not have mercy on us, we shall surely, or we shall definitely be among the losers. So there's more emphasis here, but the condition is still the same. The condition is still istighfar and rahmah. The condition even in the first one is the same. The first one is like, if you do not forgive us, or forgive me rather, if you do not forgive me and have mercy on me, I will be from the losers. So the condition is the same. It has to do with forgiveness and mercy. But you can see in this part, there's no emphasis on the jawab, and in this second part, there's emphasis on the jawab. كذا الأمر. Okay, yeah, we're going to look at كذا الأمر. So I was just explaining the concept so that we understand what's happening. So now we're going to break it down. So كذا, one of those words, which can be looked in two ways. All right. So you can either look at it as ka, harf jar, plus da, ismul ishara. So kada, two parts, kaf, harf jar, which means it's going to be a muta'alliq, right? So jar majroor, muta'alliq. And then of course da, ismul ishara. So that becomes our and then ismul ishara and musharun ilay. That's going to form our mubtada, our muta'alliq. Yeah. So you can look at it that way. Or you can look at it as, so al-amru here would be the khabar. Yeah. So this would be, this would be our mubtada, and this would be our muta'alliq bil khabar. If you look at it that way. If you look at ka as separate, if you look at kada as separate, harf jar, isim jar and majroor. So that's one way. The other way, you can look at kada as one word. So there's some who say that kada is actually one word. It's not a composite of kaf, harf jar, and da, ismul ishara. It's just kada, the way it is. For example, if I say ja'a kada wa kada طالبا, such and such students came, right? So in that case, some have said you look at it as one word and you would treat it, you'll give it the i'rab of what it does in the sentence, right? So in that case, this will be our mubtada, this will be our khabar. Either way, it doesn't really change much, because in one way we're looking at it as muta'alliq, and then in the other way we're looking at it as mubtada. But if it can be also, if you're looking at it as one word, it can be maf'ul bihi, it can be the outside doer, it can be a fa'il. Like for example, ja'a kada. Yeah. Or marartu bi kada. Now that's going to be like it's a bit different. It's going to be a muta'alliq. But yeah, that's how you look at it. Yes.
كذا الأمر if ka in the first case, if we take ka as jar and ذا as اسم إشارة and أمر as a musharun ilay. So musharun ilay is nothing but the badal of ذلك. So shouldn't be it like كذا الأمر because it is harf jar?
In this case, it's not musharun ilay. So it's not badal, it's khabar.
Can you please tell me the first case? Ka is the harf jar, ذا is ism shara, and but al amru is not musharun ilay.
No, it's not musharun ilay.
I think what she's asking is if it was a musharun ilay, then it would be kazal amri, right? In this case, it's not, but if it was, right? I think that's what she...
Yes, if it was ismul ishara and musharun ilay, it will be kadal amru.
Kazal amri.
But it's not a fragment.
It's not a fragment, okay.
It's not a fragment. So now let me explain a concept.
Yeah.
With ismul ishara. So ismul ishara, we understand that when you're labeling ismul ishara and musharun ilay, we actually don't call it musharun ilay. So for example, if I say هذا البنت or هذه البنت, obviously هذه البنت, this girl, maybe أكلت, this girl ate. Okay, if I say this girl ate, so I'm pointing to a girl. But when I'm doing the i'rab, I will not say al-bint is the musharun ilay, marfu'. No, you will not find that. Would actually do the i'rab and we'll say هذا is ismul ishara and al-bint is the badal of هذا. Okay, badal marfu' of هذا. That's how we will do the i'rab. That's number one. Now, number two, you can have, for example, so if it is not ma'rifa, for example, هذا بنت. So هذا البنت أكلت. Okay, we understand this is ismul ishara and musharun ilay. We've talked about how to do the i'rab. It's badal. But if we have هذا بنت, now we are entering into jumla ismiya. So هذا is a mubtada, bintun is a khabar. We are familiar with that concept, right? Now, there's an exception. Just like in everything Arabic, there's always an exception. There is a way in which you have a mubtada khabar where the khabar is proper and the mubtada is ismul ishara. This is the case. Now, when does that happen? That happens when the thing you're pointing to, the musharun ilay, it's not the thing that is coming after. So here, al-amru is not the musharun ilay. We are not saying this matter. We're not saying, like in the example, this girl ate. We are not saying this matter. We are saying this is the matter, or this is the case, right? So I'm pointing, this is pointing to something that came before, something that was mentioned before. For example, if I say, obey your parents, full stop, this is what the Quran tells us. This is the statement of the Quran, for example. This, let me write it down so that you can see what I'm saying. So if I obey your parents, oops. Full stop. This is the statement of the Quran. Maybe not in those exact words. Maybe let's say obey Allah. Obey Allah. This is a statement of the Quran. What is this pointing to? Is it pointing to the Quran? Or is it pointing to the qawl of the Quran? In Arabic, this would be something like أطيعوا الله أطيعوا أطيعوا الله هذه قول القرآن. Right? So, do I say هذه is my اسم الإشارة, and قول هذه قول القرآن, this is a fragment that is proper. So, like, what do I do here? Or even you can even say how do I want to use L. Want to use L. هذه القول. We can even say هذه القول في القرآن. Yeah, let's do that. I think it's been off. What happened? هذه القول. هذه القول في القرآن. Okay. So, do I say that this statement in the Quran, do I take it as a fragment? No. هذه is actually pointing to this statement. أطيعوا الله. So, this is a statement in the Quran. So, I put an invisible is, even though al-qawl has al on it. But al-qawl becomes my khabar, because it is not what is being pointed at. It's not the musharun ilay. The musharun ilay is something that came before. So this is an exception when it comes to the rule of ismul ishara and musharun ilay, and whether to treat it as a badal or a khabar. So in this case, it is pointing to something that came before, and therefore we treat al-qawl as a khabar. So similar thing here, وَكَذَا al-amr. And this is the case when it comes to inna. This is the same apply. You can even say the same applies for other than inna, right? So he's telling us that he introduces a concept. Generally, tawqid, you can't find tawqid in a place where emphasis is not the context does not necessitate emphasis, and you cannot remove it from a place, and so on and so forth. And he's saying, if you're thinking that this applies only to inna, you're wrong. This is the case for other than inna, all the tawqids, in other words. This applies for all the tawqids, and that's why he's talking about lam. He's talking about lam here, right? Let me see what's in the chat here. So, okay, so I think we've looked at how that is. If we take this whole fragment together and as a muta'alliq, then who's muta'alliq, where's mubtada or khabar? I think we've clarified that, but there's no possibility of this here, right? I think we've clarified. Is that clear? Did I clarify that? Did you understand how this is a muta'alliq?
أطيعوا الله is a musharin ilay of هذه, which comes earlier. I just want to make clear myself. The two cases of musharin ilay, one being we are pointing at, another being as a khabar. Two possibilities are there, right? So if it is a khabar, then it would what haza or hazi, that whatever is some ishara is there, it would be pointing to the thing which is stated earlier, the word which is stated earlier. Is it correct, Sister La?
Yes. هذه is actually fine. Why was I? Yeah, you can even say هذا is also fine. But I think هذه, because we're referring to like a kalima. So this kalima هذه القول في القرآن. Even if you had something here that was feminine, you can even say al-kalima. Let's make it even more confusing. Now I made it so confusing. Now you can't even tell what's happening. Like, is it اسم الإشارة المشار إليه? No, it is not. هذه الكلمة في القرآن. This is a statement in the Quran.
Sister, we use Damirul Fasal normally, right?
Yeah, normally, but sometimes no.
Sometimes.
Because if you use Damirul Fasal, you're adding even more emphasis. هذه هو الكلمة في القرآن. It adds something else.
Then how do we differentiate that this is not the Musharun Ilay and this is the Khabar or something? It is pointing to something which is before, like it can be Khabar or Badal, right? So how do we differentiate the context?
The context will tell you and the meaning.
Okay,
So
exactly.
yeah, just knowing what's happening. Because again, you ask yourself, what would, if this was a musharun ilay, وَكَذَا الْأَمْرُ فِي غَيْرِ إِنَّ, and this matter in other than inna, what about it? It's not complete. And then he goes into a new sentence, فَهُوَ يَقُولُ مَثَلًا, then he says, for example, what? So you see, it doesn't make sense. If it stops making sense, then you go back and see if you can understand it differently. Yeah. Is that part clear? Any other questions regarding that?
Sister Ilham, وَكَذَلِكَ means here, what is it pointing to? The Turkey? And this
This
is the
whole
case.
statement that he just, this idea that he posted, the
Or
idea,
the earlier. Okay.
yeah. So this entire paragraph that he mentioned, so he said this applies to other than inna. If you look at other tawkids, it's the same case. The same case applies. It's not just strictly for inna, right? Because he was using inna. Remember in the previous page, it was just inna. He gave examples for inna and without inna. Then he gave without inna here and then with inna. So maybe a reader might assume, okay, maybe this is the case only for inna. So he clarifies and say, no, it's not just for inna. This is the case for all the tawkid. If you look at lam tawkid, if you look at nun thaqila, it is the same case. Like you cannot find emphasis, whether it is inna or other than inna, you cannot find it in a context that doesn't require it, or you cannot omit it from a context that requires it. So this applies all throughout the entire style of tawkid. So that's his point.
Sister Ilham, it's saying that only inna is not the tawkid. There are other things, or there are other harfs also which shows the tawkid. That is the main idea, right?
No, he's saying this concept is the same for other than inna. In other words, he's saying this applies for everything. It's not just inna. Inna is a tawkid, right? You have lam
Yeah.
tawkid. You have nun thaqila, right? So he's saying this is the case for other tawkids, not just inna. غير inna. Oh, this dhamma is gonna confuse people. I think I moved my screen a bit, so everything moved. Yeah. So he's saying that this is not just the case for inna alone. Even other than inna, the same case applies. Right?
Okay.
Understood?
Yeah.
Any other clarifications? Okay. So he goes on to give an example of what he means, that it just doesn't apply to inna alone, that it applies to other forms of tawkid as well. So he says, فَهُوَ يَقُولُ مثلا. So for example, he would say, هو مبتدا, this sentence, جملة فعلية is our khabar. So قال يقول, we are familiar with this word. The fa'il is the insert product. مثلا, for example, this is a very common thing that happens a lot, and it's always going to be like this, مثلا. It's not مثلين, مثلون, no. It's always going to be مثلا. Okay. I think it's the i'rab is نائب مفعول مطلق or a حال. I'm not so sure, but it's one of those two. Most likely نائب مفعول مطلق.
Sister Ilham, I'm so sorry. Could you please once again tell me what is naib al-maf'ul mutlaq? Whose correlation is not present for now?
Yeah. So for example, if I said, okay, there are a couple of things that can actually be نائب مفعول مطلق. So it's not just one thing, but the main one that I'll tell you is that if I mention a مفعول, a sentence, so for example, ضرب ضربا. This is our normal مفعول مطلق, right?
Yeah.
ضرب ضربا.
Mm.
But I want to remove that. I don't mention the, because it's as you understand, I beat him a lot. So I said ضربته كثيرا. In essence, it actually means ضربته ضربا كثيرا. So this كثيرا is the sifa to ضربا. That's why it is following. Is كثيرا, just like ضربا. So it's following ضربا, but ضربا is not mentioned.
Okay.
So I don't mention ضربته ضربا كثيرا. I just mention ضربته كثيرا. or شديدا, intensely, right? So this شديدا is the sifa to something, to the مفعول مطلق that has been omitted. So how do we do the i'rab of this? You can say this is sifa to a مفعول مطلق that is omitted, or you can just call it نائب مفعول مطلق.
Okay,
That's
so for
one.
masalan, how are you saying naib al-maf'ul mutlaq? But it's just an example, right?
مثل مثلا.
Okay.
يعني the فعل is not mentioned, so you have the فعل that is omitted. That is another case where you have the فعل that is omitted, and therefore let me just pull up because there are several ways in which you can have a نائب مفعول مطلق. I don't remember where we did this. We did this نائب مفعول مطلق. We did this in صرف. Okay. Yeah. So نائب مفعول مطلق. So there are several ways, like I mentioned. How many? Let's see. There are 8 ways in which you can have a نائب مفعول مطلق. So most of them are not common, like I mentioned. So this one, masdar with the same meaning from different roots. For example, جلست قعودا. قعد and jalasa mean the same thing. But instead of me saying جلست جلوسا, and جلوسا would be the مفعول مطلق of jalasa, because it's the same root, right? I use a different masdar that means the same thing. جلست قعودا. I sat so long. That's what I'm trying to say. But then I use a different masdar with the same meaning. So the i'rab of this masdar here will be نائب مفعول مطلق. It's not exactly the مفعول مطلق, but it's substituting the مفعول مطلق. نائب, ناب ينوب, to substitute. Okay, so that's why we call it نائب الفاعل. نائب المفعول مطلق. It is substituting. It is representing, if you will. So that's one. 2, the one I explained to you, if it's a sifa to a مفعول به, to a مفعول مطلق that is omitted, right? Numbers, you can watch maybe the video, just refresh your memory on some of these examples. Then you have إضافة to a masdar. Most of this these words, if you see these words and whatever comes after it, and if it matches, it has to match. It has to match the فعل. So أكلت كل الأكل. كل الأكل. أحبك أعظم الحب. Okay, so that إضافة, this إضافة would be considered نائب مفعول مطلق because it has the same verb, the same جذر. But if you say, for example, بذلت كل الجهد, this is not مفعول مطلق, this is just a توكيد, because جهد and بذل, different words, right? And then you have this one is rarely used. Yeah, and then of course this is obvious. كتبت هذه الكتابة. All right, it has to be from the same root again as well. Yeah, so the most common ones are these two. These first two, these are the most common ones. So if you just, and especially this sifa one, this one is the most common one that happens. So that was a digression there, but I think it's an important
Exactly.
revision. Wait, yeah, okay, so let's go back. Okay. Oops, I did that again. Okay. وإلا تغفر لي وترحمني أكن من الخاسرين, and then you compare to this. So we've done that. وإلا, so in لا, this is in plus لا, so the أداة الشرط in, and then لا نافية, لا of negation, and if you do not. وإن لا تغفر لي, so تغفر is the فعل of شرط, and it is مجزوم because of in, that is in إلا. لي of course is متعلق بتغفر, متعلق بالفعل. وحرف عطف ترحمني is معطوف to تغفر, and that's why it's also مجزوم. ترحمني, ني is the مفعول به of ترحم, so that's what's happening there, and that whole section forms our شرط. أكن is the جواب الشرط, and it is lightest. It's not أكون. We know كان يكون. أنا أكون. But because it's مجزوم, and this is أجوف, so the weak letter disappears. You cannot have two sukuns. That's a rule in Arabic and in Sarf. You cannot have two sukuns meeting. Whenever two sukuns meet, the weak letter dies, right? So that's why you have أكن. And this is مجزوم. This is the جواب الشرط, and it's also a فعل. أكن من الخاسرين, من حرف جار. الخاسرين is the مجرور, اسم مجرور, and together they form the متعلق to أكن, right? So that's the ayah. And then he says بلا توكيد, without any توكيد, yeah, without any توكيد, or without a توكيد, you can say, because توكيد, a single توكيد, without a توكيد, it's nakira in that sense. Any questions?
الأمر is مبتدأ وكذا is متعلق and في غيره إن is also متعلق, correct?
Yes.
The beginning
Yes,
of
you
the
can look at it that way, yes. Or you can look at this as the mubtada, and this is the khabar, and this is the muta'alliq. Both ways are fine.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Here we go on. Okay. So ويقول مرة أخرى, and he says another time. So يقول فعل oops. Right. I think I have forgotten مرة. I'm just going to confirm one thing. I'm not so sure about the i'rab of مرة. Is it a ضرب or is it? Let me confirm that. Or is somebody sure about what it is?
Could be مفعول فيه or ظرف, because it's talking about when, right?
Yeah, I have an inclination that it is that. مرة. مفعول مطلق. نائب يعني المصدر, so it's نائب مفعول. I had a feeling that it's either نائب مفعول مطلق or ظرف, but I wasn't sure. But yeah, نائب مفعول مطلق. Yeah. So yeah, نائب مفعول مطلق, as you can see, it happens quite a bit. So يقول قولا, أقوال قولا مرة. قولة مرة, يعني it's like a صفة to the مصدر of قال يقول. Same thing here with يقول قولا مثلا. يقول قولا مثلا. He says a statement like. So it's a صفة to the مصدر of يقول that is hidden. Okay. So yeah. So that's a نائب مفعول مطلق again. أخرى as a صفة مرة. And that's why it's not آخر, it's أخرى, because مرة is feminine, so we're using the feminine version of آخر, أخرى. All right. وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. Again in أداة الشرط. لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا. This whole part forms the condition. We've already done the إعراب of it. The only thing that changes is here it's لنا, here it was لي. So ترحمنا, ترحمني. It's just the same. مفعول به. لا نكونن من الخاسرين. So here, and look, لنكونن. All right. Again, it's just not لام الجواب. There's لام الجواب, and then there's نون الثقيلة. Right? It's not لنكون yeah, لنكن ونحن. It's لنكونن من الخاسرين. Yeah. And yeah, we did من الخاسرين. بتوكيد الجواب. So he said the جواب is being emphasized. As you can see, the جواب is being emphasized with the lam and a نون الثقيلة. So he's putting emphasis like we will definitely most surely become of the losers, or surely be of the losers. Like there's an emphasis being generated there. Any questions, guys?
What it is? Al-jawabu بالتوكيد.
بتوكيد. not بالتوكيد, but بتوكيد. There's no al. So what does that, but توكيد becomes what then?
مجرور.
بتوكيد الجواب. Like how will translate it if we are making an
Okay.
idafa?
So look at توكيد. Look at توكيد. Is it light, no al?
Yes.
So that means what is al-jawab?
مضاف
Light,
إليه.
no al. Yes.
But
Light,
it
no
can.
al, مضاف إليه.
Okay.
Mhm.
Then how we will translate like with the emphasis of jawab?
Exactly. Yeah. So he's emphasizing the jawab. This is what he's calling the jawab. So
What
here
I
you can
was
see.
like, please correct me where I'm wrong in this my thought process. I was thinking that al jawabu bitawkidin. So the jawab is with emphasis.
So okay. So there's no reason then for it to be light.
But actually we are making it like if we'll put two kasras, it will become heavy. Bitawkidin.
Yeah, but that would only mean one tawkid. Bitawkidin is one, a single tawkid. But there's no single tawkid like we've seen. There's three tawkids. There's lam, there's two noons. So بثلاث توكيدات. That would be the most correct form of that. But no, here the intention is مضاف مضاف إليه. بتوكيد الجواب. With the emphasis of the jawab. With emphasis of the jawab. That's what is being said here. Not with the jawab. Not so how this basically you would say the jawab with emphasis is with emphasis. But then that's not what he's saying. He's saying he says this. So look at this. بتوكيد الجواب. This whole thing is a متعلق. So it's a متعلق to what? It's a متعلق to يقول. So يقول he says in another part this with emphasis of the jawab. So you have to look at it as a complete thing. This is not a separate sentence. This is متعلق to the what he said. Is that clear? Do I give you an English
Yes.
example? Clear?
Alhamdulillah.
أمام ويقول قولة مرة, right? So قولة
Mhm.
is مفعول مطلق and مرة is going to be like نائب المفعول مطلق.
Yes.
And what about
Yes.
أخرى then?
صفة مرة.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, لنكون. Yes. All right. Any other clarifications before we move on? Okay. Fawzia, you're up.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. ويقول مرة ثالثة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لئن لم يرحمنا ربنا ويغفر لنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. سورة الأعراف. بتوكيد الجواب وبذكر اللام الموتوتي. There's some kind of lam قبل الشرط.
Yes.
كل ذلك حسبما يقتضيه الموطن والسياق ولا يصح البتة وضع آية من هذه الآيات في غير سياقها وموطنها كما سنبين ذاك. And he said a third time, if our Lord does not have mercy on us and forgive us, we will certainly be losers. And this has been said with emphasis on the jawab and mention of this lam, mawtiyati, before the shart, before the condition, and all of that is according to what the context and the place and the context demand, and it is not correct. No, I'll say it the other way. There's this big, huge file like we had before, and to place an ayah from these ayats in other than its context and its position is not correct altogether, just like we will clarify that.
Yes. Okay, so I don't know what's happening with my screen because it's just moving about. And I'm realizing I'm trying to fix it, but it's not really getting fixed. So we'll just I'm gonna just fix whatever I can be able to fix so that it's not so confusing. What are you saying? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So now look at what he's doing. He's comparing 3 ayat with the same concept. So he mentioned the first one, there was no tawkid. He mentioned the second one, it had tawkid emphasis on the jawab part. Yeah, like we looked at. And then he says, ويقول مرة ثالثة لئن لم يرحمنا ربنا ويغفر لنا لنكونن من الخاسرين في سورة الأعراف بتوكيد الجواب وبذكر اللام الموطئة قبل الشرط. So بتوكيد الجواب وبذكر اللام الموطئة قبل الشرط. كل ذلك حسب ما يقتضيه الموطن والسياق ولا يصح البتة وضع آية من هذه الآيات في غير سياقها وموطنها كما سنبين ذاك. Yeah. So now he's bringing a third example, and in this third example there's emphasis in the shart and in the jawab al-shart. So there's emphasis in both sentences. So the first one, there was no emphasis anywhere. In the second one, there was emphasis on the jawab. In the third one, there's both emphasis in the shart and in the jawab al-shart. So that's what he's saying. Now, he's basically, so I'll explain what lam al-muwatti'a is. This lam, okay, so basically lam tawkid, lam of emphasis, is most of the time is going to be at the beginning of a sentence, or of a sentence. Lam al-ibtida'i is called. Yeah. So this lam that comes within, this la that comes within is called lam al-muwatti'a. That's all you need to know. Like that's basically the gist of it. Watta'a yuwatti'u, to introduce, so an introduction. A preface is also called muwatti'a and things like that. So preparatory, introductory. So that's the meaning of muwatti'a. So in other words, the lam al-ibtida'i, the lam al-muwatti'a, lam that comes at the beginning, but it has to come within. That's the condition. So any lam that comes within this structure, la'in, this lam is called lam al-muwatti'a. So he's saying that in this structure, you had a lam al-muwatti'a in the beginning, in the shart, and you had emphasis in the jawab al-shart as well. And kullu dhalika, and all this is happening, the first one without tawkid, the second one with emphasis on the jawab, the third one with both emphasis in the shart, in the condition, and in the jawab, all that is happening according to what the placement and the context requires. Okay? وَلَا يَصِحُّ الْبَتَّ. Al-batta, what does al-batta mean? If it comes with a negative sentence, it means definitely not, or absolutely not. So it actually means absolutely. If I said, he came absolutely, جاء البتة. You can even say البتة أو البتة. It's the same thing. So he came, he definitely came. جاء البتة. لا يصح البتة means it is definitely not correct. What is not correct? Like وضع آية, this whole فاعل وضع آية من هذه الآيات في غير سياقها وموضعها كما سنبين ذاك. No, all the way to here is the outside dua of يصح, like we looked at before. So placing an ayah from any of these ayats in a place that is not في غير سياقها, in other than its context and its placement, like we shall explain clearly, is not correct at all. It's definitely not correct. So that's the literal translation of it. But you can just say it is not correct at all, or it is definitely not correct to place an ayah from any of these ayat in other than its context and its place where it is supposed to be. Is what he is saying, is that clear? Before we break it down into the grammar, like
كما سنبين, that means what is to know as we observed it.
بين يبين. What does بين mean?
We explained
study-
that.
Yeah, clarify. So we like كما, like, or as سنبين that, as we shall clarify that, as we will clarify that, or as we will make that clear. Any other questions?
Yeah, one question. This
Mhm.
huge giant file, I
Mhm.
thought it would end before comma because just as we will clarify that,
That's a good
meaning we
point,
will
actually.
clarify it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, you're right. Yeah, that makes more sense, obviously. Yeah, and then that كما سيبين ذاك will be the متعلق. Yeah, good point. Any other questions? Okay, so let's break it down. ويقول مرة ثالثة, we've discussed this phrase before, so when we said ويقول مرة أخرى, the same thing is happening here. ويقول مرة ثالثة, same structure. مرة نائب مفعول مطلق, ثالثة صفة to مرة. Okay, so that's what's happening there. So this is the ayah that he's quoting. لئن لم يرحمنا ربنا. So ربنا, the only difference here is that ربنا is actually mentioned as the outside fa'il of يرحمنا. So here it was أنت. لئن لم تغفر وإلا تغفر. So we were talking directly, or whatever, whoever these people are, they were talking directly to Allah. But in this case, they're talking away from Allah. So Rabbuna, the outside fa'il is mentioned, so that's the only difference there. But the whole concept is the same. You can see it's rahmah and forgiveness. لَإِن لَمْ يَرْحَمْنَا رَبُّنَا وَيَغْفِرْ لَنَا. This is our shart. لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And this is our jawab that we also did previously. So the only thing that is different from this ayah is لَإِن, that is emphasizing. So the mubtada is also being emphasized. Well, the in here, not the mubtada, but the in here is being emphasized, right? And then also this part is being emphasized. So if certainly our master does not have mercy on us and forgive us, we will surely most definitely be of the losers, right? So they, in other words, they need the rahmah and the forgiveness more than the previous groups. Like here, it's more urgent. Yeah, there's more emphasis because there's more urgency. And that's why the shart is emphasized and the jawabu shart is emphasized. Okay. So he says, bitawkid again, this is the muta'alliq to this part. So I want you to imagine if you replace this with just one word. مقول القول. So this is a مفعول به. This whole thing is a مفعول به of يقول. So it's just one word. ويقول مرة ثالثة, this, which is a مفعول به. This is what he says. بتوكيد الجواب, and this becomes our متعلق together of يقول, like we looked at it before. And then you have واو حرف عطف. So this واو is connecting this part to this part. So بتوكيد الجواب, with the emphasis of the جواب, وبذكر اللام الموطئة قبل الشرط, and the mentioning of لام الموطئة before the شرط. So that whole part is connected. So this بذكر اللام الموطئة قبل الشرط is connected to بتوكيد الجواب with حرف عطف واو. All right, and of course قبل الشرط مضاف إليه. قبل is a special مضاف. ظرف المضاف of time, ظرف, and الشرط مضاف إليه. So this is our متعلق to ذكر. Okay. كل ذلك, كل مبتدأ, ذلك مضاف إليه. So كل ذلك all that, this forms our mubtada. حسبما, I think we talked about this last time. It's also another نائب مفعول مطلق. There you go. So حسبما نائب مفعول مطلق. ما, this kind of ما we mentioned last time, ما مصدرية, is followed by this what is it called, فعل مضارع, which forms مصدر مؤول together. So according to the context, according to what the context and the placement necessitates. Yeah, so that's what is happening there. And of course, inside that masdar mu'awwal, that compound ism, you have يقتضيه, which is our fi'l, right? And then we said, oh, there's so many dhammas here that just got misplaced. But موطن والسياق. So what's the placement? Oof. Ooh, what happened? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, fixed it somehow. Anyway, so what the context and the placement necessitates. Yeah, so this موطن والسياق is the outside dua of يقتضي, يقتضيه. And of course, the who is the مفعول به of that. And ولا يصح, we talked about this structure last time. البتة, again, another نائب مفعول مطلق, I think, or is it a حال? I think نائب مفعول مطلق. Yes, ask. Somebody had a question?
Namaz jo.
Oh, somebody just unmuted. I will confirm about this البتة. I don't remember. I think it's probably a حال or نائب مفعول مطلق. But it's always going to be البتة. Like it's always going to be منصوب على الفتح. على الفتحة. Right? And then, yeah, so this entire thing is the giant فاعل of يصح. وضع آية مضاف مضاف إليه, which makes our مبتدأ. من هذه الآيات, giant جار مجرور متعلق. هذه الآيات, this is the fragment, اسم الإشارة مشار إليه. في غير سياقها وموطنها, another giant جار مجرور. So حرف جار غيري مجرور غيري special مضاف. سياقها مضاف إليه. سياقي مضاف ها مضاف إليه. So and then that whole part is connected to this part with a حرف عطف. Wow. Okay. Can we take وضع as مفعول? مفعول. Then I think I'm not so sure, but I think صح is لازم. I think we discussed this last time, did we? Let me just confirm. But I think صح يصح is لازم. That's why it's not taking a مفعول به. صح يصح في ثلاثي لازم متعدي بحرف. لازم. So that's why we're not taking it as yes. Okay. Yeah, that's why we're not taking it as a مفعول به. Because again, even in my head, like it doesn't sound right. ولا يصح وضع. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I will confirm if there's any possibility, but it is lazim, and that's why we are saying this part is the outside dua. Like this is what is not correct, is incorrect, or is not valid. Yeah. I think valid is a better translation. It's invalid. Maybe you can even say in this case because of لا يصح. This is invalid. maybe that will be more clearer. Okay, so yeah, and then we have كما, ka, حرف جر, ما مصدرية. We've talked about this. Whenever you see كما, this is going to be ما مصدرية. سنبين, it's a فعل مضارع. The sin is for the future. So نبين, this is a فعل مضارع. نحن is the فاعل. نبين, ذاك is our مفعول به of سنبين. What will we clarify? ذاك, that. And of course, the whole giant jar majroor is our متعلق to يصح. Yeah. Questions?
Still, حسب ما يقتضيه, we take ma masdariya because يقتضيه can be converted into a masdar and it remains the same meaning. That's why we are taking ma as a masdariya, right?
100%.
And not ism masdar.
100%. Yeah. And this kind of like from where I read, I haven't done a lot of research on hasb. Yani it's there's, you can either say hasb or hasbama. And from where I read, they said the distinction, if it was written as what happened? Ma separately like that, then this ma is going to be ma mawsula. But if it's written together like that, then it's going to be ma masdariya. I don't know if that is like, I haven't, like I read only one place that said this, so I have to like do more research to find out if actually this is the case. And again, you notice like with Arabic grammar, so you have two camps. You have the Kufans and they have the Basrans. So the Basrans have some differences with the Kufans and like that. So that this tiny thing, sometimes you could have two different statements or even more than two different statements. So yeah. But just for now, just know that this together forms masdar mu'awwal. Together it's a ma masdariya, and yeah, easier that way. Oh yeah, okay. It's
Sister
okay.
Ilham,
So yes.
so what is it masdar here? وَضُعَ آيَةٍ?
وضع آية is مضاف مضاف إليه. وضع, this is, yes, this is a masdar. وضع يضع وضع. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Sauda, it's okay, no problem. وإياك جزاك الله خيرا.
Sister Ilham, so what is the difference between Zaka and Zalika?
Okay, so the way they look at it, like this word ذلك is made up of three parts. So you have that, which is the ismul ishara, which came before. Like when we're talking about kada, we said this could be made up of two parts. Kaf,
Right.
which is harf jar, and that is the ismul ishara. So the original ismul ishara is just that or ta. Yeah, that's the original version of it. So it's made up of that, which is the original ismul ishara. Then it's made up of lam, and then it's made up of ka. So they brought these things together and it became dhalika. You can decide to do a variation of this. That's why you can just have that by itself. You can have dhaka, and then you can have dhalika. All right? But there's no dhal. You cannot have dhal. Okay? So lam, this lam is called lam al-bu'd. Lam for a faraway place. And that's why you don't have it in hadihi. Because hadihi is not pointing to something, or hada is not pointing to something that is far. It's pointing to something that is near. So this lam points to something that is far. So look, that I am pointing to something that is far, drawing your attention. Ka, anta, I want you to look at that thing that is far away. That is the meaning of that. So if we were to translate dalika, that's how we would translate it. You look there, or look at that. It's a really long, it's not just that. In English we say that, but in Arabic, it's, as you can see, it's way more than that. It's actually you, or you female, dhaliki, or dhalikum, or dhalikunna. Your ladies, I'm pointing to that. So I'm drawing your attention to look at that. Something that is far. That's the breakdown. But in MSA, they use interchangeably. You can say that, you can say ذاك, you can say ذلك. Yeah, same thing. Any other questions? Right. And also, like, conjugating, the masculine version is used more than the feminine version. Like, you would rarely find ذلك. Like, if I'm talking to you, I won't say ذلك. I'll just say ذلك. ذلك الكتاب. I won't say ذلك الكتاب. Like, it's not used. Or if I'm talking in the Quran, it is used, but in normal speech, they just use the masculine verbs. هذا, ذلك. We don't say ذلك. I mean, if you want to be more correct, or you can say ذلك or ذلكم, it's fine, but they just use ذلك. All right.
Because masculine is inclusive, that's why.
Yeah, and I guess also language, to just simplify language. Because can you imagine every time I'm pointing to women, I'll be like, ذلكن kitab. What? Like, or every time I'm like, it's so just to make the language easier, I assume they just decided ذلك for everything. No need to do ذلك, ذلكي, ذلكن, ذلكم. No. ذاك, not so sure, but ذلكم is present in the Quran. ذاك, I don't remember reading anything like ذاك in the Quran. ذاك, let me check. I don't think so. But other versions, like ذلكن, it's there. ذلكم, it's there. Yeah, and ذلك, a lot of ذلك. ذاك, I no, I don't think it is there. I thought so. Yeah, mostly like in just MSA, and even not used quite a bit. Like I would imagine it's more official. ذاك. Yeah, or maybe even in speech. They use it. ذلك is obviously more famous than any other versions of ذاك or whatever. Yeah. But maybe ذاك is also used. Any other questions? Okay, so I think, we can safely end there. And then tomorrow we'll begin with this part. So we can complete page 17. Page 18 looks like just examples, which is great. Not bad. It's a bit easier, probably. Alhamdulillah, that's great. All right, we can stop there unless there's any last clarification needed. Okay, great. I'm gonna stop there. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Walaikum assalam.